internal anarchy.
Okay, Professor Swaran Singh, what does it mean for India's national security?
I think the fundamental challenge for India's national security comes from at least two fronts. One, that the landscape of political narratives have fundamentally changed. I heard when you said five names of possible prime ministers, you included Mufti Rezaul Karim also, who's chief of Islami Andolan. So, Jamaat-e-Islami is not the only radical conservative Islamist force to reckon with. And therefore, I think that radicalization of discourse, including, as Ambassador Sikri just mentioned, of Tariq Rahman initially being reluctant about July Charter, finally being made to say yes. So there is enormous shift from what used to be a very liberal political landscape with the two Begums dominated in the politics, as we keep saying, for 3 decades nearly. Only case where 50 seats of Jatiya Sansad were meant only for women to be nominated on proportional representation basis, to now such extreme radicalization. And second, of course, very clearly is enormous substantial deceleration of Bangladesh that was being seen under Sheikh Hasina as a model of economic development in South Asia. So both these radicalization and deceleration would directly impact on relations with India, on whether people will flow over to try to come to Indian side, and that could disrupt bilateral relations increasingly. And how to deal with that is a major challenge. Even if India has made overtures of foreign minister going there recently, but if entire landscape is getting radicalized and economic deceleration is creating turmoil and unrest on the ground, all the major issues that voters wanted in this election is about inflation control, end of corruption, jobs, infrastructure. Now, if radicalization is the path in Bangladesh now, I'm not sure how that resurgence of economic development is going to be revived, because I think that economic resources are going to go in very different direction in that sense.
Okay.
And radicalization would mean advantage Pakistan, advantage China. United States, in fact, is already making an assessment, and that partly is the reason why they signed that trade deal just 3 days before elections, because influence of Pakistan and China is definitely going to increase, even if BNP, which is the initial trends are clearly saying that out of about 50 constituencies where trends are visible, BNP is supposed to be leading in about 30 of such constituencies, and JMI is lagging far behind right now, about 12 seats or so. So in that sense, if the overall landscape is getting radicalized, economy is getting decelerated, initial internal turmoil inside Bangladesh is not going to disappear very soon, and that is not a good news for India, both in terms of relationship and security.
Absolutely. Professor Swaran Singh, a lot of sociologists would say that the modernization has killed the cultural codes, it created religious uniformities across the world. But, the larger issue here is that it has indeed subordinated the Bangladeshi identity to the larger Islamic identity. This is something which cannot be set aside. Are we witnessing desecularization of Bangladeshi society in the same breadth and length that we witnessed 10 years ago when Erdogan took power in Turkey? Is that being repeated in Bangladesh? Though it took a different process, he jumped into the electoral bus and did away with all the democratic concessions, Erdogan. Here, the same thing has happened, like Muslim Brotherhood, when Sisi came to power, they all jumped into the bandwagon of democracy and then they dismantled what democracy stands for.
Absolutely, Karthikeya. I'm happy you brought this point up, because I was hearing Suhas say that Islamic identity has always been there. But the way I understood the liberation of Bangladesh when I was a young student, I understood that Bengali identity was much stronger compared to Islamic identity, and that is why East Pakistan decided to become a separate independent country. And therefore, Bengali identity also subsumes the fact that there is enormous empowerment of women. There is enormous liberal, literary, educated culture that we have known. Indeed, in entire East and West Pakistan, the initial communism was emerging only in East Pakistan, which is Bangladesh. So you're right that fundamental liberal identity of Bangladesh, where women could feel empowered and equal, that seems to be reversing itself into a far more theocratically driven Islamic identity, which is coming to the forefront. I agree, it's a possibility that these could not be as important and as powerful as they appear to be sometimes, because radical voices catch greater attention and media covers that kind of shrill noise. But the fact that across party lines, that is what I'm saying, not only just the parties that are Islamic parties, you made mention of, for example, Nahid Islam, also fundamentally a modern but fundamentally conservative voice of youth of the National Citizen Party that was created early last year, I think January. So that fundamental drift of rapidly growing, developing, liberal Bangladesh, with which India was perfectly at home, and India was having excellent relationship with that kind of power elite, that is reversing. And I think the silent non-presence of large number of voters, and that is why the low voting that is happening, as we are seeing, is a reflection of large number of people. In fact, most people are saying that the elderly people generally are not trusting the interim government, is not trusting the elections, whereas the conservative and youth is relatively perhaps inclined to go in that refrain that we notice now. So yes, there is a fundamental drift, according to me, in the political landscape in Bangladesh.
Anarchy that they want.
Okay.
So I think that the Bangladesh liberal thought is alive. We have to look for it, work with it, and develop it.
Okay,
and support it.
Professor Swaran, 30 seconds. I really need to, take a break.
Just one quick point: out of 2,000 candidates contesting, women candidates are less than 80.
Okay.
If the women have not disappeared from political landscape, then what else?
It is less than 4% today.